part of the shared vision of Fourth Rev and King's was to find new ways to provide useful and stackable learning opportunities that lead directly to real-world outcomes. As you are graduates of the Career Accelerator, you know how much we focus and value that real-world application of learning. And the Postgraduate Certificate is one way we're aiming to provide value at all stages of your career by the natural progression of learning you've already completed in the Career Accelerator, now into the postgraduate realm. It allows you to build on what you've already learned to develop specialist skills that will help you stand out even more, along with the credit-bearing certificate, which is an important aspect, obviously. The time you've already invested as a Career Accelerator learner will be recognised in prior learning, contributing to the completion of the Postgraduate Certificate. And you're able to take the learnings and put them into practical use in an applied project format and dissertation that's relevant to your current situation. You're paired with an academic supervisor from King's as well as an industry mentor. And distinct from the Career Accelerator is that you'll be 100% a King's College London student, accessing wellbeing student services, library, alumni, email addresses and the like that we'll touch on again shortly. So that's a brief vision of why we've gone down this path in collaboration with King's and why we feel it is of great value also. I'm now going to introduce our very special guest. And I'd love to welcome Michael, Dr. Michael, along for the ride and to introduce himself. And thank you, Michael. Great to see you again. How are you, firstly?
Oh, I'm great, DC. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to the session.
Thank you, and thank you for your time. It's most valued to us. But if you could just also give the audience a quick intro to your role and background.
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Michael Marcinkowski. I have a lot of roles in the college here, and most of which actually pertain really directly to what we do in the area of product management. So I think first the kind of the largest role I have is as Pro Vice Dean for Professional Education here in the college as Faculty of Arts and Humanities, and so I look after all of the professional education activities that go on in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. And I'm also the Director of Education for the Digital Futures Institute, which is what the package of our partnership with Fourth Rev kind of sits under, because we're trying to get learners to understand how to live well with technology, how to integrate it into their lives and integrate it into their workplaces in an effective and useful and kind of healthy and helpful way in a lot of sense. And then finally, I'm also a senior lecturer in the Department of Digital Humanities, which is the department that offers the postgraduate certificate in product management. And so I'm one of the people who's frequently one of the supervisors for these projects, and I'm the program lead for the project for the program as a whole. So what I love about this is that I get a chance to touch this work with the career accelerators, with the postgraduate certificate, and I get to be involved in all levels with it, which I think is really great, and I really love.
Which we much appreciate and value, but I'm not sure how you juggle that many hats to wear.
Well, so what I appreciate about this, and I think it's a great design, is that they're all related, and so it's instead of having two people doing two bits of work, you have one person doing about 1.5 bits of work instead.
Exactly, and I guess that helps with consistency across the whole value chain or proposition or program as well, which is fantastic. I'm going to ask you a question or two if that's okay. And we've already got some fantastic questions coming through that we'll get to as quickly as we can as well. But I guess from your perspective, Dr. Michael, why do you feel that learners should consider a postgraduate certificate in product management?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that I think that all of the learners here, they've all experienced the Career Accelerator. They've all seen what King's and Fourth Rev do together, which I think is really this kind of magical and wonderful partnership that I think is really full of value for everyone. And that's how you get this firm industry directed piece of learning, and that industry direction comes from Fourth Rev, and it's all grounded on this kind of empirical and research backed work that goes on at King's. And so we've come together, we've made the Career Accelerator, and I think that everyone here knows, I think, how tremendous that learning opportunity is. I think it's more rigorous than any other comparable program out there. And I think the Career Accelerator is a wonderful a place to start. And I think it gives people such a tremendous background. What the postgraduate certificate does is that it allows you to take what you've learned in the Career Accelerator and take that background and really dig into what you as a learner are interested in. The postgraduate certificate is a really learner directed and learner focused piece of learning. There's no one kind of sitting there saying you need to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to tell you how to do it. We're going to tell you the kinds of things that you need to focus on. It's about you as a learner being able to take everything you've learned from the Career Accelerator and reconfigure it and remake it into something that suits your particular need and your particular situation. So I think that's a really, I think it's an opportunity to really kind of take what you've learned from the Career Accelerator to another level. I think that the ability to develop, to spend it's about 4 months of time of working on one single project gives you a chance to get into it in a depth and to a degree that the Career Accelerator kind of doesn't allow you to really dig into these topics. The Career Accelerator gives you this wonderful broad overview. The employer project at the end gives you a chance to hone those skills. But the PG Cert is the moment that you can say, I'm going to really dedicate my time to thinking about these questions, these areas that matter to me. In the best case scenario, the people I think who have probably the best learning on the PG Cert are the ones who connect it to their situation. If they are in a position of being a product manager right now, connecting it with something like that, connecting it with an industry that they want to be moving into. I think it's a great showpiece for people to be able to hold up in interviews and say, I've just spent 4 months of my time learning about this area, thinking about it deeply. And I think there are very few places and very few opportunities in your life that you can dedicate this kind of time to, and really look very closely at things. And so I think it's a tremendous opportunity for students, and it only takes what you've already done to the next level.
I love that, and I completely agree. And I think if I can sum that up also, there's a productive element to one's education. There's a real industry workplace based, if they choose to go down that path, if learners do choose that you can actually demonstrate to your current or a prospective employer, as you mentioned, the value of their application of learning to a productive outcome. It's not as if it's a examination or a piece of work that you put to a side and don't look at again. You're actually going to use this for a productive outcome within industry, hopefully, as well. And that, I guess, before I move on to what sort of support, maybe we frame firstly what it looks like from the project, the dissertation and reflection. Is that okay, Michael, if you provide an overview of what that looks like before we touch on support and things like that?
Yeah, so I think that I think what you just said, I think is an important part. Is that the core of what your work is to work on a project, to develop what we kind of term an artifact in some way. And that's either it's kind of a SWOT analysis, a product roadmap, a go-to-market strategy, some piece of work that's kind of a completed piece of work. And the way that we usually frame it for people is to say, you're developing this like you're taking this piece of work and going to show it to your boss. You want to be able to go to show it to somebody higher up in the company and say, this is the work I've done. Is this a yes or a no, or is the company going to go forward with this plan or not? And that's the kind of artifact that really is the heart of the work here. Because we want learners to be involved in a real hands-on kind of project that has that real link to what they're really doing, to things that really go on in industry, and have something that forms this core of their work. So the artifact bit, and this is the project, that's a really, really important part. But this isn't just a kind of a work project. There is this layer of academic reflection that goes on in this, and this is the way I think this is part of how you deepen the learning of it. So you have on the one hand, you have the artifact that you deliver as part of your project work. But then you also have a written dissertation where you write about the development of that artifact that you've created, of whether it's a go-to-market plan or a SWOT analysis or whatever. And you look at how other people have talked about developing these artifacts. You cite other previous work that people have done in these areas. You reflect on the process. You say, this went well, this didn't go well, and you don't just kind of produce a piece of work, but you take that time to then write up another report that talks about that experience, that talks about all the thinking that has gone into it. And in that way, you're really kind of deepening, and you're going through this reflective process of thinking about, well, why did I choose to do this work in this way rather than another way? Why did I choose to present material in one way versus another way? And that's the moment when I think that you really get this great mix of a kind of a work-based and academic education that come together, because you're looking at what other people have done, you're looking at theories, you're looking at frameworks that are established, and then you're really drawing the connections between that world and the world of the workplace and the actual kind of work that's done. So there's this great synergy between these two parts of the dissertation project,
which learners love, and as you said, deepens that learning, bridges that gap between the academic rigor and the industry application, and has that productive outcome in the end. In terms of support, I've got a question here regarding the support that learners will receive, because it's different than the Career Accelerator. They're directly enrolling with King's, although there is additional support available. But what type of in-program support can learners expect?
So in the program itself, so the program is it's a very, very self-directed program. And I think that's an important part of it, because that's also kind of part of the learning as well. Is that this is your project. You design it, you develop it with help, and we'll talk about that. But it's the learners. It's their responsibility. I think there's a great piece of learning that goes on there in terms around managing time, managing what your own expectations for it. And all of those kinds of things. And so I think, to me, it's a great learning. Doing this kind of dissertation project is an amazing learning experience and a moment for growth. But the way the program is scheduled, they're structured, is that you meet regularly with your academic supervisor. It's about every 2 weeks, and have regular check-ins with them, where you talk about your progress, talk about how you're doing, what are the things you're thinking about, and your academic supervisor provides this moment of reflection for you. They're a person who can answer questions. They can ask you questions. They're a reflective sounding board for you. But it's really, it's the student's project, and so they are the driving force behind it. And the supervisor's there to occasionally gently kind of keep them on track a little bit. But it's really this kind of independent thing. I think that the thing that really sets this work apart from other academic dissertations that we do in the department, is that at the beginning of the process, you work with the industry experts from Fourth Rev, who help you shape and scope and get a kind of a sense of what kind of projects would accrue the most value in that kind of marketplace of jobs or for industry things. And they help you figure out what is the right project for you, what are the themes. And then when you start to meet with your academic supervisor, they help you refine it, they help you think about it. But so you're still getting two of these, again, this industry and academic focus of what you're doing, which I think is great.
That's a really good point. And the industry mentor aspect of it, or that support from the industry specialist, enables that currency in the workplace. So it might be a question posed around, well, things have changed in the last 12 months with the inclusion of different technologies. Have you considered adding this layer and then bringing that into that project piece, and then the dissertation to follow on reflection, obviously, as well. So good support, obviously, although it is much, much more self-directed than the Career Accelerator was. I might just touch on, is there anything else in relation to support? Obviously, there's outreach if required, but I guess how the certificate will help learners stand out in product management. We touched on earlier, it is unique, the theories and frameworks that you've mentioned. And I'm really keen to get to the questions from the audience very, very quickly. But in terms of, I think what some of the audience would be interested to know, Michael, is how onerous is the workload? Is it, is there word counts, for example, for each of the pieces? There's the 3 parts, obviously, the project, the dissertation, and then a reflective presentation piece, bringing the 3 together.
Yeah, so there's no the word count is a little the official word count for it. I think it's something like 8,500 words or something like that. I don't have the figure right in front of me, but it's a little bit of a loose word count because half of that is for the artifact, and that's so the artifact needs to be roughly the equivalent of something like 4,000 words or something like that. But depending on the shape of the artifact, that's obviously a picture is 1,000 words and all those kinds of things. Um, but it's it's not a tremendously big piece of work, but it is. I mean, it is. I think a challenge, and it is a good challenge for people to be able to sit down and write a few thousand words about their experiences, about what they've done, and to connect it up with other learning that has gone on. So I think it's not without its challenges, but I think that's it's all good challenges in that way.
Exactly. And I've seen some previous examples where, I mean, you're right in the sense of the word count, because a lot of that is visual in the first project as well, rather than a straight up word count, for example. But I think on average it was close to 3,500 words for the for the project, the artifact, as you mentioned, closer to 4.5, 5 for the dissertation, using the Gibbs reflective cycle I think people have used previously. And then it's a visual or oral communication presentation, bringing those two together, which is what, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, so for the presentation that we ask for students to do, it's really a very short, about 5 minutes, very high level presentation, just to kind of have that chance to lay out what they've done, why they've done it in a really brief, high level, practically elevator pitch style,
Yes.
just to get that experience of talking about these things and presenting their ideas down.
So learners have got 4 months to do that. Can they finish that sooner?
Yeah, I mean,
Not sure if it's myself or Michael that is frozen. Thumbs up if you can hear me.
it takes some reflection. You don't want to go too quickly. But I think in practical terms, it could be the case that you were able to finish it up sooner than that 4 month period. But in the realistic sense of it, I wouldn't imagine it, nor I wouldn't really encourage it either, because I think
Yeah,
taking the time to look deeply is part of the process.
to do it right rather than do it quickly. I think you froze just for a moment at the commencement of that response, but I think it caught up in terms of that people can, but it's certainly encouraged to do it right and use that time to produce the best outcome possible for one's intended purposes and learning outcomes. So it is self-guided, self-directed. You agree deadlines with the academic supervisor on that, but ultimately it's up to the learner to schedule their work over that period. The scheduled sessions. Someone's actually asked, I'm going to jump into some audience questions if I may, if that's okay, Michael, and we'll come back to one or two others that I might have for you as well, because this one asked, or someone's asked, is the supervisor meeting on a regular basis every 2 or so weeks? That's with academic supervisors from King's, not so much fourth rev, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we usually, your supervisor will find a way to schedule that with you. We usually like to try to get all of the meetings kind of set up in the diary according to a kind of a mutually agreed upon timing for the entire program, just so it's done, and then make adjustments as we go. But yeah, so it's usually just with the academic supervisor, and it's a nice flexible kind of situation.
Exactly. And let's get into some other questions. And just a reminder for everyone, if you can pop your questions in the Q&A. I must say, from my own perspective, it's delightful to see the names of so many of our valued alumni and learners in the webinar today. And I thank you all for your time as well. Okay, let's get into some questions. So Anonymous has asked, will there be a path beyond the level 7 certification for a full master's degree, or is this level 7 the most that can be achieved for product management within King's College? Would you like to touch on that one first, Michael, and I'll certainly frame anything else?
Yeah, so the product the postgraduate certificate is all that King's offers at the moment. We're kind of constantly looking at what the demand looks like for doing a full master's, and so it's something we're always kind of in the process of exploring, but we don't have anything on the horizon immediately.
Exactly, and it's always something that we have a long-term vision here at Fourth Rev, and certainly with our partnership with King's and the Career Accelerator model. We didn't obviously just launch the Career Accelerator and the PG Cert, or the Postgraduate Certificate, at once. We went through a process of surveying you, our valued learners, to understand the value and the demand in the creation of then a postgraduate certificate, and over time we wouldn't rule out that there may be further options as well. For those of you that aren't aware, it is a level 7 qualification. Michael, for the audience benefit, is there anything you can add to that in terms of academic credit points, or where that sits in terms of the hierarchy of qualification?
Yeah, so level 7 is it's the same level as a master's degree. Undergraduate degree is levels 4, 5, and 6. Master's degree is level 7. In this program, you end up with the PG Cert, which is 60 credits of level 7. I think the questions come up before about the transferability of credits, which is always a little bit of a very kind of sticky question, because it really depends on the accepting body. And so I can't really tell you that this 60 credit PG Cert will be easily transferable to other programs or in other contexts, because it's always dependent on where that transfer would be going to. But it's kind of the first, usually seen as the first the kind of the first rung on the level 7 level.
In my neck of the woods, and I'm sure it's similar in other areas as well, my neck of the woods being Australia, it's postgraduate certificate, postgraduate diploma, and then masters, all three.
Yeah.
Obviously then combine those stepping stones. So it's basically the equivalent of a third. But Amy asks an interesting question here. Thanks, Amy. Great to have you on board as well, and thank you for your contribution. How does this program compare to similar postgraduate certifications in terms of content and outcomes? Amy, I'm not sure that there is many or any postgraduate certificates in product management. We know when we were designing this with King's that it was going to be very, very unique. Apologies, I don't know if any have been launched since. But Michael, do you know of any other programs at this level in product management globally?
I don't know of any off the top of my head, and I think that, to me, the real kind of unique point of this, I think, is King's. I think that the King's name and the King's reputation are kind of worldwide and very, very well respected. And so if I imagine that there are other product management certificates or kind of something equivalent out there, I think that the having the King's name on it is a tremendous value to our particular program, and that's in addition to the learning that goes on in the Career Accelerator, the addition to being able to work with King's academics on your project as well.
Exactly, and for the global recognition that King's provides. But as a King's enrolled learner in this postgraduate certificate, you're a King's student more so than previously in the Career Accelerator. You were a Fourth Rev learner with the King's certification. You will gain library access to the King's library. You'll obtain a King's domain email address. There's a graduation ceremony, more formal, I guess, than the celebration that we hosted at the end of the Career Accelerator, but you'll also be a part of the official alumni network post-graduation of a level 7 King's certification as well. Amy, just to reflect a little further, I guess, how does this program compare to similar postgraduate certifications? It doesn't compare in many ways, as in the sense that it's yours. When I say it's yours, it's you're empowered to choose possibly the topic, and I'll touch on that because there's another question on that in a moment, and applying the outcome of the centerpiece or the project, sorry, in a workplace, or for a prospective employer to look at ways in which that may enhance your employment prospects with a particular industry or even a particular employer. So that, as I said earlier, the productive outcome, the nature of the productive outcome of the learning also is very, very unique in that regard as well. And that brings me to the next question. Is there flexibility in selecting the topic for the dissertation, or are there restrictions on what can be chosen? Do you want to touch on that, Michael, or do you want me to?
So I think that we have some kind of suggested areas that we provide to students. But I actually think that that's I think it's helpful to look at, but I think it's also limiting in one way, because really the prospects for what these projects look like are very, very open. And it's really about you finding the area and the topic that you're interested in looking at, something that'll be of value to you. So part of it is there's a conversation that goes on, is that if you came to first to the kind of the industry experts who would help you shape the project, and you had an idea that was totally left field and totally wouldn't fit in with any industry perspectives, I think that they would gently say, let's see if we can think about something that fits a little bit more in line with what we see as really adding value for this. And that's a conversation. There's no kind of stricture based on that. And that's a conversation that goes on. And it's about finding something that is of interest to you and something that will be workable. I think that for me, the biggest conversations that I always have with students, probably the first one or two meetings with students who I'm working with, it's all about thinking about scope and thinking about time, because it's always amazing. It's always wonderful to see that students come in with really big ideas, really big projects, which is great. And I get very excited, and we need to, I think, sometimes get a hold of ourselves a little bit. But you only have 4 months of time to work on this. This is usually 4 months that you have other commitments. People have families, people have jobs. There are other things you need to do in this time. And it's always about saying, well, what is the appropriate amount of work that you need to do to earn the postgraduate certificate, and how much can you reasonably do in a certain amount of time, and finding that balance to that. So to me, there's no real criteria for what these projects look like, outside of that you have an artifact, you have a written dissertation, and then you have a very short presentation. But beyond that, there are no real limits to it, outside of making sure that the learner and their supervisor are able to kind of come to an agreement about what's useful, what's possible to do in a certain amount of time.
Exactly, and there are some questions surrounding a topic you just touched on. How many hours a week commitment would this course require? Would it be possible to complete this postgrad while working, or would it require 4 full months of full-time commitment? No, I think on average, there would be less hours per week than what you were committing to the Career Accelerator. However, it is self-directed, so there's a lot more self-discipline involved in committing to it, but ensuring that you do knock off things along the way and you commit to a study, like not so much a formal study plan, but a commitment to yourself to ensure that you put enough hours away per week productive on your project and dissertation, ensuring that you would adhere to the deadlines that you're going to have eventually throughout the program, with the support of the academic supervisor as well. So I think someone else has asked, is it online or in person? It's completely online as well. The physical meeting aspect will be the graduation at the end. So in answer to your question, it's most accommodating of full-time employment. I'm not going to say it's going to be 2 or 5 or 7 or 10 or 15 hours per week. Some weeks you may do nothing. Other weeks you may put in 15. It's a lot more self-directed than that, but it would be certainly on average a lot less hours per week than the Career Accelerator. Mind you, the work that you've done in the Career Accelerator is contributing to this, and your learning outcomes have been not so much assessed as in contribute to this level 7 qualification as well. just touching on that before I get to another few questions, it does require a pass mark of 60 and beyond for the Career Accelerator to be granted access. If you're very close to that, we will have a discussion with the team at King's about your individual circumstances. But I'm thinking that having received the invites to this, you will have met the criteria already. And I'll talk through the application process in a short time frame as well. Michael, can it be, someone's asked here, can the dissertation timeline be extended? Whilst they've said there that the full-time workers may not have the amount of time to write the dissertation within a couple of months, that question came through before we outlined the roughly 4,500 words for the project and the dissertation. It may not be as big as what they potentially thought of, given a master's is many, many more. But if there was a scenario, is there an extension available at all, to your knowledge?
Yeah. So I guess the first thing to say is that I think all of the students that I've worked with who have completed the postgraduate certificate have all been working full time alongside it. So it's not, to me, it fits in very well. They found it fit in well with their life, and that it was I think, as DC was saying, very variable in terms of the commitment of week to week. That some week was nothing. Some people actually did like to take a week off of work toward the end when they were doing the final writing bit, which I think is yeah. I don't want to put it in those terms, but it's a that's a nice moment to say, I'm going to stop, I'm going to pause other things and really focus on it. But people have done it really differently. There is in King's, there is an official process that you go through to ask for an extension, and that's called a mitigating circumstances form that you fill out, and you say, why do you need it? What is the reason and the rationale for needing it? But that's not something we would necessarily encourage or look for, or kind of say to students, well, don't worry about deadlines. You'll just fill out a form, you'll get an extension, because that's not necessarily not always guaranteed. It's something that's done administratively. But usually it's not a problem, but it's nothing you want to rely on. But that does exist. But we do hope for you to be able to finish it at the deadline, barring any unforeseen circumstances.
And as long as there's that regular commitment that you make to yourself, I don't think it will be a problem for many or any. Lena's asked here, can one choose the topic? We've touched on that, dissertation, and could it be related to one's current job? Absolutely, Lena. How long is the dissertation we've mentioned? And will it need to be discussed live at the end? I guess Lena's asking there, is the presentation a live presentation to the academic board or support, or is it a video recording of that?
No, it's just a video recording of a very kind of short presentation.
Excellent. There's some brilliant questions coming through, and feel free to pop as many as you care to in. I'll get through some more, and I'm glad I got onto them early. I'm not sure if you can, Michael, because some of the projects that learners do certainly fall under the requirement of having an NDA with their current workplace or similar. But is there any high-level example of previous projects and dissertations that you can give the audience an example of?
Well, I think that there are a few. I'll talk about a range a little bit. So in some cases, people have developed things like SWOT analysis for particular products, and doing some market comparison. They've done work around doing a kind of a go-to-market strategy for a specific product. People have looked, I think, DC, this might be one that you wanted to touch on, I think, specifically. But there was a project about AI integration and kind of an AI integration plan into, I think it was a delivery service was the project. But again, all of these things are very various. I think we look at all different types of industries and all different types of products that people are working with. So it's for me, it's always tough to get a exact example, because it ranges from people looking at things that you would know about as a kind of at a consumer level, and those are things we definitely wouldn't want to mention, to things that are very, very unique and very niche as well, that are just in
Yeah.
their job place. So I think there's a tremendous variety.
And I think you summed it up really well earlier when many learners come in looking at the big picture and get the assistance to hone it right down into what is going to provide value and meet the criteria for the project as well. And that's a good process of discussion, as you said, to go through, ensuring that there's benefit for the learner and potentially for the outcome that they're seeking as well. Someone's asked what support is available to international students navigating different academic and professional landscapes. I'm not sure about the different academic landscape. This is a King's academic landscape, so there's no difference in terms of the support available. It's the same as if you were a local UK learner. I know we do have learners in Europe, in the Middle East and Southeast Asia, and there's actually a few North American learners that this program is now seeing more popularity with as well. So the support will certainly be the same for that. Moving on to some other questions that are coming through.
Oh, DC, just to go back to that question, I think that the question about the academic environment is actually a really important one, because for a lot of people, whether you're a UK student or an international student, doing a kind of a dissertation project isn't something that most people have done before.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we try to do in the program is make sure that we give them that support to be able to say, this is what a dissertation, with this kind of project-based dissertation, what it looks like, how you use other resources. There are a lot of resources that are developed by a specific unit within King's called King's Academy, that is all about how do you do academic work in the UK environment. And so for me, that's a big part of kind of what you have to kind of get up to speed with, to understand what you're doing in that area. But there's tremendous support that is available through King's for that, whether you're coming from an international context or a UK context, in either case.
Yeah, that is. Thank you for elaborating. That is most interesting. Just on that, then, not on that, on the academic aspect, what is the marking like? Is it pass or fail? What does the certificate actually give to potential employees in terms of outcomes? I'll touch on that, but the marking aspect, it's different than the Career Accelerator, I take it, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, there is you got a mark, if you're familiar with the UK marking, the marking, scheme, the regular scheme. Most students, I think most students, you generally see they're, in the 60s, low 70s range, which is all very nice marks in the UK. I come from the US originally. All my academic background was in the US, and so coming to the UK, understanding the system of marks in the UK was always a very interesting process. But it's a traditional UK marking scheme. There is obviously some marks that are passing marks and some marks that are failing marks. But it's nothing that's any different from traditional UK academic marking criteria.
Excellent. I'm going to touch on something here that the question's been sitting there for a little while, so I do want to get to that one. From current job searches and economy, it feels like what is currently missing to obtain a role is tangible experience. How would you see that a dissertation bridges this gap? That's a great question, and we'd love to support any learners, obviously, that are still seeking employment outcomes. Reach out to us, and there's also some things upcoming that Fourth Rev are launching for all our valued alumni across all of our career accelerators with different university partners that may assist further with this. But I think there's some opportunity here to think a little differently. So, for example, if you don't have a workplace in which to apply this or obtain this project idea from and to, there are industry-derived ones that certainly can be provided. Or I would encourage people to even potentially think outside the square a little to answer that exact question or to fill that gap that's been mentioned by the attendee in that question. And what I mean by that is it may be a current product that is within headlines, or more importantly, for better impact, it could be a local sporting club, charity, or for-purpose organisation, that you volunteer your time to flesh out any ideas with their product, for example. Now, how powerful, if that gets passed as the project, there's a process obviously that you need to go through, but how powerful would that be to say, not only did I do my postgraduate certificate with King's, but the actual project and dissertation I focused on enabled this outcome for my local charity or something similar. So there may be a creative way in which you can obtain both through a volunteer sort of aspect. A lot to flesh out in that terms, but I would encourage you to think that way for the dual benefit of giving you both some on-the-job experience to answer that question in a workplace and the accreditation that not many people in the world will have as well. Let's get through some more. We've gone through pass or fail. Can you collaborate on a bigger project with someone else? Good question. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest.
So generally, this kind of work is a kind of an individual endeavor. I think that if you're doing this work kind of based on your work in your workplace, I think there's some tacit collaboration that occurs, but the responsibility of the project and everything that will be created as part of the project and the dissertation itself would be your own work. And there's this is not a group project to be evaluated in that way.
Yeah, exactly. There is an onus on yourself. I guess to extrapolate that somewhat, would there be, Michael, an opportunity for two learners, say, to work together to say, I'm going to do my dissertation and project on the front end of this product, and there's a demarcation area where you'll pick up the go-to-market aspect, for example, and they could do it on the same project, but on the same product, sorry, but with two different areas of the product.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that would be. I don't think that would be problematic. I think that I would generally caution or advise caution in that area, because in that case you are relying on someone else in some way, or I think that there's a way that you could do it that is two totally separate tracks, and that's not really any collaboration. But anytime you begin to work on something where there is that someone else's work is touching on your own or supporting your own, that does introduce fairly substantial risks that you're taking, and trust that that someone else would be doing it. For me, I think that it's always good to, and we encourage, and hopefully people who have already kind of made connections on the Career Accelerator and are already speaking to each other. But I would encourage students to speak to other students. But I would generally advise to try to keep your project your own project, just for the sake of risk.
Yep, exactly. Someone's asked also, does the level 7 give us credits towards other full masters at King's? We've touched on that, but do you want to refresh?
Yeah, so there's no other masters at King's that this is kind of a direct entry into, and so there's no kind of guaranteed or easy way. There are credit transfer schemes in operation, and they're around the world. And I think, like we said before, that's something there's always a big unknown with that, because it's about the other program or the other institution validating those credits in a way.
Exactly. Could you please elaborate more on how would an employer see more value into having a postgrad certificate as well compared to only the Career Accelerator? Would we display the two certificates on our CV at the same subject and both from King's? Great question. There is the additional value over and above the Career Accelerator, of which this is a requirement to have completed the Career Accelerator to gain entry into the postgrad, in that it is much more academically intense on a specific aspect of the project that you're going to focus on, and that may be of great value to an employer to either see that you've done that, or to see that outcome in their workplace as well. So there's great benefit to that, obviously, on top of not only the obtaining the qualification, which is unique. So I think there's amazing outcomes and value from the Career Accelerator as a career accelerator as it is designed. And this is a natural extension of that now, to hone in on a specific area of interest or a specific area of value to a prospective or current employer, and dive deeper into that with that academic process surrounding the dissertation that is going to add value to many prospective or current employers as well. But yeah, there'd be no harm in displaying the both. With the Credly badges processes, you obviously get a badge for course 1, 2, and 3, the employer project, and then overall for the Career Accelerator. This will be a different certification qualification from King's, not a certification, sorry. So you will be able to display both, certainly with pride, I dare say. Is the course, what is the entry criteria? So you need to have obtained a pass mark of 60 or above, of which I'm sure you all have. If it's slightly below that, speak to us and we can speak with Kings regarding that. When I say slightly below 57 or above, but generally 60 is the entry point to get that. And I'm pretty sure that we ensured the invites for the PG Cert went out to those that were successful in that. I don't really think there's been many that haven't achieved close to or above, certainly above a 60 mark. But is this course available for anyone or limited to learners who've already completed the Career Accelerator? It's only available for those that have completed the Career Accelerator. We've had people inquire about the experienced product managers inquire about going straight to the PG Cert component, but without a structured recognition of prior learning or things like that. It is only for those that have completed the Career Accelerator and achieved 60. Will the 4-month term start right in January, or much like later in the Career Accelerator, the 4-week onboarding? No, you're pretty much straight into it. There'll be a live session to kick it off, to give everyone the actual dates as well. I'm just going to look them up. I should have them in front of me here. Do you know them off the top of your head, Michael, or am I going to find them here? Here we go. Application window is now open till the 29th of November, end of this week. Applications can still be taken after that point in time, but we've condensed that into a window in which we can go through the application, sort out anything else that's required on behalf of Kings to support you with that, or and then you can have Christmas rested up, ready to go, knowing that you're commencing your postgraduate certificate in January. It starts on the 20th, and whilst there is an application deadline date closer to that time, I think it's early January, we're encouraging everyone to get those applications in, because there is a bit of a process. It's different than applying for the Career Accelerator. You're applying for a postgraduate program with Kings, and it does require the opportunity of demonstrating that you've achieved the 60 pass mark from the Career Accelerator that you would have received in your statement of marks. If you haven't received that, reach out to us and we'll work out how to get that to you, and your certificate of completion from the Career Accelerator as well. There is only 20 places available for the PG Cert as well. So they're the dates, commencing on the 20th, runs for 4 months from that point in time. Thank you for that question though. Does the course include further career coaching sessions or allow us to extend existing sessions deadlines? Great question. Formally, no. However, if you haven't used up your coaching allocation during the Career Accelerator, I think there is a time frame on which you can do that. I think it's up to 6 months following. But again, reach out to us, and if you've got some coaching sessions left, we'll certainly look to welcome you taking them up during this point in time on a case-by-case basis. But we'd love to just support you wherever we can. So reach out to us and we'll see what we can do in that regard. But a very good question. The career coaching is not extended into the postgrad certificate formally, but if you've got some coaching sessions available to you, let us know. Is the King's Library available for learners online as well as in person? And would there be a physical student ID provided? I might defer that one to you, good self, Michael, if I can.
So the King's Library is like most other university libraries, where there's been a big move to try to get as many resources as possible online. So I think that no matter where a learner is, there's usually more than enough available online. I find, even as someone who goes physically to King's every week, I find myself needing to go to the library. I still enjoy going to the library, but I find myself needing to go to the library less and less because more and more is available online. And any student, so this program does have an online kind of orientation to it. So usually getting a physical ID isn't regularly part of the process, but if you are in London, then you will, and then I think you just have to figure out what is the process to go through to get your ID and get the ID made and get it picked up. I think that is available to you, but that's not something we walk students through like they do walk through a lot of the regular in-person programs, because it is meant to be online. But that is available if that is your wish, I think.
Yep. It's £2,000 is upfront the only payment option? No, you can split that into two payments, one at commencement and one during. If you're having any financial challenges, talk to us as well, but you can split it over the two payments there as well. Helen, hello, Helen. Helen's got two questions. Would we get to know or meet other students in this program? Michael, I guess there's somewhat less, but there's some collaboration in this. I know there's been some live sessions, but it is more individualized. However, that has not necessarily prevented students starting their chat groups, and there's been some organic meetups as well, both across the Career Accelerator and the Postgrad Cert previously. So that can be student-led. It's not a formal part of the program, but it certainly can be student-led.
Yeah, I think that the particularly the industry mentor parts at the beginning, I think that the past few times that they've tried to get the students all together for a live session together, so they can hear other students' ideas and they can talk about their ideas together. But generally, the supervisions are all just handled individually.
Helen's got another very valid question that I don't think I've had before. We have access to the modules from the Career Accelerator for 6 months post the course. Would it be extended if we do the PG cert? Helen, I'm going to have to take that question on notice, I think. And Michael, I wouldn't assume that you'd have, no. So that's a really good question. I'm going to jot it down now. Free CA access. Don't know how much you'll need it, but certainly if it's of value and warranted, then I'll come back to you, Helen, specifically on that. We might be able to, if anyone else is interested in the answer to that, we might be able to post that somewhere for everyone as well. We've got, would I still be eligible to apply for the next cohort if we don't apply for the course that starts in January? Yes, there'll be another one mid-year. Helen, thank you for your contributions as well. Someone's asked, I'd like to understand a bit more on credit transfer. I'm aware that other KCL courses allow credit transfers. Why would this course be different? I do feel that at the point of dissertation would be covered 50% of the masters. I'm not entirely sure of the time value spent. I can understand that wholeheartedly, but it depends on, and Michael, you're better answering this, but from my understanding, if you were applying for credit to a like program, it would open up that opportunity, as there's not a master's in product management specifically that prevents the direct credit transfer. Is that an accurate portrayal?
Yeah, I mean, as far as that's the way that I understand it. I'm not an expert in credit transfer processes necessarily, but there is no direct line for the credits to move beyond this program itself.
Wonderful. Yeah, so I think I've got some further information on that. If someone wants to direct message me with their name that they may have asked that, I'm happy to reach out for if I do have any other info on that from the previous webinar that we hosted. But that's my understanding. You do get the academic credits, and if there is further opportunity to take up a master's in this discipline in the future, that is when that may be applicable. But as there's not a master's in this discipline currently, that prevents it. Someone's asking about the application process, asking for English proficiency test result. I'm not sure. Can you book a time with me? I'm not sure about that. Having completed the Career Accelerator and meeting the English proficiency requirements for that, it's very, very similar, if not the same. So, and is the 29th of November the last date to register for the course? No, you do have longer. We've opened this application window to provide additional support for those that are required. But if you need longer, it's open through to early new year. But the sooner we get it in and sort out those sort of nuances, the better as well. Are there any other elements to the selection process? Michael, I don't believe so. I think it's the completion of the Career Accelerator with a pass mark of 60. Suffice that you provide the required documents, you're in. I don't think there's anything to add there, and that's pretty good timing. Just if what happens if many more than 20 people apply is the last question. Michael, would we extend it slightly? I think we're aiming to have more like 15, but if we were overwhelmed with applications, mind you, that's a pretty big portion of, when I say big portion, that's a percentage of people that have completed the Career Accelerator. But this is only open for people that commenced in the first presentation of 2024. Those that commenced in presentations 2, 3, and obviously 4 are still studying. They're not eligible for this one. But I guess it would be a case of saying no to some if there were more than 20, and that would open up the mid-year intake.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those kind of terrible kind of situations to be in. And if it depended on, I think, department staff availability, because we need to make sure we would have enough supervisors for everyone. But I think it would just come down to who's. I think it would just come down to the who's already been accepted at that point.
Exactly. So orientation, self-paced competency checklist. There's the starting point. We've got the 4-month timeline, progress tracking with your regular check-ins and reviews. The completion is the final submission and the presentation and the dissertation and the graduation ceremony at King's. We've put together some assets also that you've received on how to apply in the King's portal. It's not via 4th Rev. So again, if you're not if you're having any issues, you can reach out to King's Direct or touch base with us here at 4th Rev, and we'll see if we can't assist. We're in obviously constant contact and work in true collaboration with King's. Thank you all for attending. Good on you for taking this step potentially towards obtaining further product management skills that will help you achieve and unlock exponential career growth, we certainly hope. Michael, I'd like to also thank you for your time, your valuable time today and expertise on this topic, and your passion for the truly unique postgraduate certificate that King's offers.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, DC. I really appreciate you being here to host us and to walk everyone through this process. I think you do a tremendous job with that every time, and I'm always so impressed with that. And so I love being here. I love the program, and so I think it's tremendous to see so many people here, and I hope to see all of you on the program come the new year.
Wonderful. Thank you. The enrolment advisors are available to assist. The recording will be emailed, and we hope to welcome support and celebrate your qualification with King's College London. Thank you all, and have a great day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.